Hi, I'm Mistress Harley, and today I want to talk about one of my favorite filmmakers, a German guy named Werner Herzog. You might be familiar with Werner Herzog. He's had some very popular documentary films in the United States, including March of the Penguins and Grizzly Man. But I love Werner for his earlier work, so much of which were obviously these amazing passion projects that got carried away and taken too far. He did a lot of work with an actor named Klaus Kinski, who's like a renowned madman, a guy who was very, very difficult to work with. Werner even talks about filming with Klaus Kinski in films like My Best Fiend and I Am My Films, where he discusses how really difficult it was. There was this rumor started that Werner had to direct Klaus Kinski with a rifle behind the camera, which is apparently not true, but in I Am My Films, he actually said that he told Klaus Kinski that if he left the filming of Aguirre Wrath of God before Wrap was complete, that he would kill Kinski and then kill himself. In fact, in My Best Fiend, Werner tells a story about a time that he had actually planned on killing Klaus Kinski. He'd planned on firebombing this guy's house, but at the last minute, Kinski's dog barked and Herzog was like, I can't do it, and fled. And apparently, Klaus Kinski was planning on killing Herzog. There's even this amazing film called Fitzcarraldo, where Werner Herzog and Klaus Kinski and a group of indigenous people of South America pull a full-size steamer boat over a mountain. In our modern day, somebody would have done this shot with CGI immediately, instead of trying to actually engineer the difficulty of pulling a boat over a mountain. But because it's not CGI, and everything Werner does is real life, you actually see this like amazing effort that came into getting a boat over a mountain, which was a big part of the film. He also does these films where you have these amazing, gorgeous geographical shots. In Aguirre Wrath of God, the film starts with the Spanish coming over these South American mountains. And again, anybody else in our Avatar world in this time would have CGI'd it, but it was the past. So instead he actually took the entire cast out there, all their equipment out there, and he filmed it, and it was amazing. But he also has these smaller short film projects which are less known that I've watched all of, like Fata Morgana, which is about hallucinations, or I should say actually it's about mirages in the desert. And he has these beautiful long shots of the desert where the desert is this shimmering, curvaceous, voluptuous character creating these mirages that you can see. Another one of my favorites of his is a short film called The Herdsman of the Sun, which is about the courtship rituals of the Wadabe people. And it is amazing to see other cultures completely unedited, completely just open to the world, but before colonialism and everything else have actually come in to ruin their culture. Many of Herzog's greatest films were made in the 60s and 70s, and he even continues making films now that he's more successful. He's had some commercial films that were definitely not the best. Like, he did a Nicolas Cage film called Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, and it was like a sequel to another Bad Lieutenant movie. It was not good, but it's not Herzog's fault. Apparently, Nicolas Cage had said that he would only do Bad Lieutenant if they got Werner Herzog to do it. And so somehow they got him. I guess they must have paid him the right amount of money. But I think Nick Cage might have been trying to get out of that movie. Like, okay, if you can't get Werner Herzog, I'm not doing Port of Call. And then they actually got him and he had to do the movie. Werner Herzog has also become this kind of nihilistic voice of the doomed. Like I said, many of his documentaries are about things that are fundamentally doomed. Like, he has a film about this volcano that's about to explode, and he takes a film crew there and they film the volcano and he's ready for it to explode. He talks to a guy that won't leave the volcano who's like ready to die, and Herzog himself even said in I Am My Films, I was ready to die. I was ready for this thing to explode. I had done all my body of work. He hadn't done his greatest movies yet, in my opinion. And then the volcano didn't blow up. And so it was this kind of reverse where Herzog was the one that was doomed. But in all of his films, Aguirre, Wrath of God, Cobra Verde, there's always a focus on the futility of the characters. And in fact, Herzog's voice has kind of become this narrative, German, dry caricature of the doomed. So even in documentaries where you see something struggling, in your mind you'll hear this German voice saying, "The penguin does not know which way it wants to go, for the penguin has nowhere to flee." Like, it's this deep love of the nihilistic and a deep love of viewing a thing that might never exist again. And Herzog always paints these portraits of a time and a place, especially with his documentary films. He's also done several films on people with disabilities, including The Land of Silence and Darkness, which is about the deafblind, and a film about handicapped children called Handicapped Future. He has a very keen eye for telling stories, and for telling the stories of people who struggle in a way that maybe the viewer has no experience with. I enjoy all of Herzog's movies. I've really been a big fan of him for a long time, so I figured it was time to make this YouTube video. So if you haven't seen any of Werner Herzog's films, or if you've only seen his popular in America films like Grizzly Man or March of the Penguins, at least watch Aguirre, Wrath of God. It is arguably one of the greatest films of all time. Klaus Kinski is one of the most compelling actors. He's not a beautiful man, but there's something about his face, you just can't look away. So I think I'll start doing more videos about some of my favorite directors because I'm a big film nerd, and Werner Herzog is a great place to start.